Bob Schwartz and I, along with two other recent graduates from Temple Law School, established Juvenile Law Center in 1975. We were inspired by the civil rights movement to serve an obviously underserved population. We began as a local legal service and grew into a public interest law firm dedicated to improving laws and policies in the United States that promote fairness, prevent harm, ensure access to appropriate services, and create opportunities for youth involved in the justice and child welfare systems. As we advance our mission, we strive to address what we feel are the most fundamental issues: that laws, policies, and practices affecting youth in the child welfare and justice systems are grounded in principles of adolescent development and other relevant research, respond appropriately to the impact of trauma on adolescent behavior, minimize disproportionality along race and class lines, and recognize families' strengths as caregivers and decision makers in their own children's lives. We insist that the United States legal system recognizes and responds to human rights and international law, providing greater protection to these vulnerable children. And most importantly, we ensure that youth have a voice in their immediate situations and in federal and state advocacy efforts to improve the justice and child welfare systems. Juvenile Law Center is working to reform the child welfare and justice systems for youth by protecting and advancing children's rights in courts, legislatures, and executive agencies. Our strategies include litigation, appellate advocacy and submission of amicus briefs, policy reform, public education, training, and strategic communications. In the short term, our substantive work for court-involved youth focuses on minimizing inappropriate or unnecessary court or system involvement, promoting fairness in the courts, improving outcomes for reentry and transition to adulthood, and ensuring access to services and opportunities. In the long term, we aim to change the climate in the United States so advocates and policymakers can ultimately create better outcomes for youth. We seek for systems to be grounded in the principles of adolescent development. We advocate for fewer teens to be incarcerated in the adult system and for foster youth to achieve permanency or receive support beyond the age of 18. When Juvenile Law Center began to expand our geographic reach, we simultaneously narrowed and deepened our substantive reach. This evolution was both purposeful and a response to specific and often unanticipated events. Our staff developed distinctive competence in child welfare and juvenile and criminal justice. We also built upon a growing body of research on adolescent development and youth transitioning out of foster care when they become 18. Our use of research is a leverage point. We're now considered one of, if not the most expert organizations in the country on legal rights issues for children. Our experience also enables us to anticipate trends and help shape them. Today, we foresee advances in the sentencing of youth in the juvenile and criminal justice systems. We see them in the non-criminal responses to the way the teens use technology, and we see them in the unique problems that occur when children age out of foster care. We form strategic partnerships and we focus on a niche group, which is children ages 10 to 21. We remain proficient on both justice and foster care issues, as well as the crossover issues between the two. We speak to, train, and educate lawyers, caseworkers, and young people across the country. We hire excellent talent that helps shape a new generation of juvenile lawyers through our exclusive fellowship and internship programs. We're most effective when we accept cases that we know will change the landscape and improve rights for many children at one time. Our Pennsylvania case that nationally became known as the Kids for Cash scandal led to the decision to vacate over 2,500 adjudications of delinquency and expunge the youth's records. This victory restored their opportunities to attend college, join the military, or gain employment. We also proposed improvements to Pennsylvania's juvenile court rules to increase fairness and transparency, which the Pennsylvania Supreme Court adopted. We continue to address outcomes in terms of impact on individual children and families. We track the changes in policy and practice we create that will have an impact on their lives. We also leverage our relationships with others who devote time and dollars to our goals. This approach reflects the reality of an advocacy organization. There are multiple steps and many allies between the work we do and the direct outcomes for our youth. We also note whether the policies we promote are reflected in law or regulations, whether we win in appellate courts, and whether practices change when we challenge them. Another area we look at is process outcomes, such as the number of opportunities we have to address professional groups, or the number of times that colleagues or the press seek our guidance or opinion. It should be more apparent that Juvenile Law Center has a national footprint. We provide litigation support, and we do appellate and amicus work across the United States. We conduct trainings and speak to advocates and legislatures across the country. The biggest misperception about Juvenile Law Center is that we're a Philadelphia or Pennsylvania-focused organization. Other misperceptions are that we're a for-profit law firm or that we're government-funded. Today, we have no government funding. We're a nonprofit that relies on support from foundations, corporate foundations, and individuals, and we don't charge for our time or services. Juvenile Law Center was the first public interest law firm for children in the United States. We've been instrumental in shaping the growth and manner of lawyering for children. Today, we're one of only a handful of organizations that focuses on children in both the foster care and justice systems. Our expertise has contributed to several landmark United States Supreme Court rulings, including eliminating the death penalty for juveniles and eliminating juvenile life without parole sentences in non-homicide cases. In 2008, we were one of 8 organizations in the world to receive the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation Award for Creative and Effective Institutions, which recognized us for our efforts in advocacy, policy, education, and reform. We played a central role in exposing the Luzerne County, PA Kids for Cash scandal, where the rights of thousands of children were being violated by a judge who was charged with receiving kickbacks from the for-profit detention center where he placed them in high numbers. The scandal made national headlines, damaged thousands of young lives, and is believed to be the most egregious judicial scandal in the history of our legal system. The primary historical challenge we faced has been funding. In our early years, Juvenile Law Center found that it couldn't survive as a direct legal service for children. We changed our business model and became a public interest law firm that worked to change policies and practices. We expanded our geographic reach across the country and created funding opportunities from national philanthropies. As we've become more successful and influential, demand for our services has grown. We've more than doubled our staff size and budget in the last decade to respond to demand. A second ironic challenge arises from our entrepreneurial, forward-thinking approach to change. Our staff was among the first to connect justice reform to new research in adolescent development and to recognize the harm of zero-tolerance policies in schools. We also anticipated the many issues associated with youth aging out of foster care, as well as the harm caused by the prosecution of teen sexting. The rest of the country catches up, which is a good thing, but then we face the challenge of determining our ongoing role on an issue. There are 3 ways that additional resources would help. First, we'd use additional resources to fund under-resourced cost centers. For example, we'd plug funding gaps in our work for youth aging out of foster care, including their education, as well as contribute more funds to our youth engagement work. Second, we'd use additional funds to expand our staff to meet greater demand for our services from across the United States. And finally, we would develop 3 new areas that appear on the wish list of our 2012-14 strategic plan. We develop and disseminate a theory of trauma-informed legal advocacy for youth in the child welfare and justice systems. We develop and promote best practices in preventing the referral of youth from the dependency to the delinquency system. And we'd address the needs of youth with disabilities who are transitioning to adulthood from the child welfare system. In 2012, Juvenile Law Center embarked on a new 3-year strategic plan. The plan called for us to continue to occupy the field of law and adolescent development, which will be the major driver of our work over the next 3 years. Additional resources would enable us to strengthen our youth engagement work in order to amplify their voices in matters that affect their lives. More resources would enable us to explore additional developing areas of research and the connection to our work. We're especially interested in language impairment and trauma.